for CMMI 1.3 to 2.0. So what we will cover today is kind of go over briefly about CMMI and its benefits, and then talk about the transition of the model from 1.3 to 2.0, and the kinds of information that's included, and then also how to prepare your organization to be ready for CMMI rating. So first, we'll start a little bit about why me. So I have been in industry, I can say now, actually a little over 20 years. I started Kreative back in 2011. So come January, we will be 10 years young. I do have significant experience in both product and service delivery. I started my career in DoD as a developer doing COBOL work. And then over the years, you know, as I grew in my career, it was a requirements lead, a technical lead, and then managed programs all the way to being a quality director. But my passion has always been about making things better, and focused on continuous process improvement. I personally have experience working with organization and implementing management and technical solutions so that organizations can get ready for ISO and CMMI. And I was lucky enough to see a lot of the benefits and organizational growth as a result of these best practices. So alongside with all this technical experience, I am a real person that enjoys streaming a lot of shows, if you will. I like a lot of historical and period kind of shows, and my favorite is spicy food. And when I can, and hopefully, you know, with this pandemic, when it ends, I'd like to get back to traveling again. So that's a little bit about me in terms of why I can do this presentation, and I'll try to infuse some real life scenario in terms of organization as well. So let's start with what is CMMI and its benefits. So CMMI is actually a model for best practices. It has the whole model is structured so that organizations can implement best practices to benchmark their capabilities in various areas for project management, software, and product delivery. So initially, this model started with focus within DoD and with a lot of software development type of work. And then over the years, the best practices expanded to include service model, along with, there are some requirements around security, data management, and, you know, it expanded its footprint, not only just within the DoD community, but across all federal agencies, including having a global footprint as well. You can see CMMI being implemented in Asia, Europe, all over, and it has such a significant footprint in China that the CMMI Institute actually has an office down there. So it has grown over the last 2 decades, and it is a global standard for best practices. So many of you, you know, as we sent this out, talked about CMMI certifications and what it entails. Well, I think what's important to understand is the different levels within the CMMI maturity level. So when you're actually working towards your CMMI and you go and become appraised, it's actually a rating that's achieved by the organization. And those ratings are done by different levels. So level 1 is where information or your organization is working in a reactive mode. You know, you're doing things, but it's not consistent. And organizations don't receive a rating in level 1. you start to get rating in level 2, where you start to have some repeatable practices. So this is where projects start to have start to do the same things. You're following the standard at level 2, the requirements. But say if you have 3 projects within your organization with different customers, they're still following the CMMI practices within their 3 different projects, but there aren't any there aren't too many guidance that are defined from the organization, right? So while the projects are following some set of standards and following the protocol, it still can be a little reactive, but the projects can be characterized as following the processes. So you can get rated at level 2, but level 3, whoops, meant to go the other way. At level 3 is when the organization starts to have a set of defined processes, and those get flowed down to the project. So those 3 projects that I gave you an example of. So now at level 3, the organization has standards for, say, project management, for service delivery, and those get flowed down. Now the model is astute. It recognizes that your customer is different, so those projects will be different. So it allows you to tailor, and the projects can take tailoring with the organizational approval, demonstrating that they're following best practices for level 3. Now, level 4 rating is where you start to have more focus around measurements. At level 2, you start to collect data, and by the time you build your capabilities one on top of another and you get to level 4, now the organization can put in statistical modeling to anticipate how a certain scenario might occur, or you can anticipate what might have happened because you have cycles of data, and now you're looking and doing some fact-based decisions or anticipating what might happen. So those are characteristics of level 4. Oops. And then at level 5, what you're doing is you're taking the data and you're optimizing by implementing tools for innovation so that you're bringing down the life cycle. And it's fact-based and data-focused. So this is the fundamental differences between one level to the next. And if you're wondering, typically within the federal space, within the government, most organizations, they go for level 3, and we have seen level 2 because all these levels kind of build on top of one another. So if the organization doesn't have any contractual requirements from, that they're working on, they may start at level 2, work their way into level 3. But we have seen majority go at start at level 3. Okay, so the benefits of CMMI, right? There are so many, and I know I drink from the CMMI Kool-Aid, but I do believe in this. As I mentioned, I've been in industry for 20 plus years, and my first project or my first job was with DOD in the Army. I worked on the Army Personnel Command Center, and I worked with Lytton PRC, so I'm kind of aging myself, who is now Northrop Grumman, and they were level 5 back in the day, and I remember being part of one of their working groups. So I'm a big believer in CMMI and all the benefits that it brings, and the first one is, this is data that we collected from the Institute. So you can have an increase of up to 61% in productivity. Productivity increases when you have repeatable process, right? Your folks know what to expect, and it creates a good team dynamic. You have standards in place, processes in place, therefore life cycle can be reduced with a good set of policies and procedures in place. And of course, increase in customer satisfaction. So when you have processes that you understand and you're looking at the requirements, customer requirements, and developing processes to meet those customer requirements and your contractual deliverables, that automatically results in meeting your customer, getting the goals that you have to achieve. And when those CPARs come, typically end up having a happy customer. Reduction in rework. I know I'm sounding like a broken record by saying documented SOPs and processes, but when you do have those in place, you do have folks that, whether it be your team member or even your external members, and it could be customers, they become used to a certain way of operating, so that you build a cadence, and that's where the productivity, the customer satisfaction, and the reduction, rework all come together. Excuse me. And then in terms of improved quality with lean practices, in our today's workplace, do more with less, and having technology kind of facilitate a lot of our work that we do. When you apply a lot of the controls and requirements and the best practices within the CMMI model, you do start to find synergies where you can eliminate fat, if you will, and you start to get really lean and start to improve quality. And what's really nice is that you start to engage internal folks so that they can identify improvements. So again, a lot of benefits. And I know I kept saying it, improved collaboration, communication is really a great benefit of the model. When we assist our customers, we use tools such as SharePoint and Office 365. And the model, when you're applying CMMI, it says that you should put your process assets and work products in a shared repository so that it's accessible by your team members. So by doing so and following that method, you are innately going in and improving communication within your team members. So, and finally, it creates organizational agility. I like that quite a bit. You have more interaction, teams are coming together, they're forming, and they're really transforming their service delivery and improving their the way they operate. So the benefits are many. As you can see here, as I mentioned, I do drink from the CMMI Kool-Aid because I've actually been doing it for many, many years and have seen many of our customers gain, increase their operations and have focus on their business performance so that they can continue to be competitive and have happy customers, as well as have focus on high quality work. All right, now transitioning from 1.3 to 2.0. So what is happening in the CMMI world? So as I mentioned, I have been working on this for almost 20 plus years. So I have seen the CMMI model go from, goodness, software CMM from back in the day to CMMI to CMM. And then when they started to integrate some of the practices, they had CMMI little I, and then they had CMMI big I, and now now there's been so many changes that it's going to CMMI 2.0. So I'll talk about some of these significant changes in the next few slides. So within the CMMI Institute has put together a product suite for 2.0. So within 2.0, what's the kinds of things that's changed is at the model itself. So first, so the model has so it's best practices, and the model has different types. So you can look at development, you can look at services, there's data management that I mentioned, there's medical devices. So there are all these different models within this whole 2.0 product suite. And in order for you to access that, organizations do have to purchase the license within the Institute because there are changes that are being made. And the Institute is, the reason you want to purchase this model viewer is so that when there are changes, it allows you to stay current with, with updates and things like that. So in the 2.0 from previously, if any of you that's on the call that have 1.3 and you're changing to 2.0, the overall architect of the CMMI model has changed. The requirements have changed. The way the set of requirements for a particular process area and how you demonstrate compliance to that changed completely. And I'll talk about that in the next couple of slides. The appraisal method has changed. So, previously what was happening is that, many organizations, when they were getting appraised, they would select one or two projects, and there wasn't a good demonstration or a good footprint of the organization. So in this 2.0, this is a pretty significant for businesses, is that CMMI rightfully is saying if your organization is going to be 2.0, level 3, everyone is operating at level 3, right? So that being said, the Institute is helping organizations by saying, since you're level 3, your projects are operating at level 3. So when you do the appraisal, they're giving you about 30 to 40 days before the actual appraisal to say, here are the projects that are in scope. Here are the practice areas. So we're not going to look at your project end to end. We're going to sample certain practices so that you don't have that much ownership to making sure that one project end to end is ready, because the idea is that the organization is always operating at level 3. So that really means that if you are going for CMMI, you definitely should have commitment and resources to make sure that your organization continuously operates at level 3. So that is one of the appraisal method that has changed, but the impact to that is that organizations need to be ready. The CMMI 2.0 product suite also made improvements in training and certifications. So in terms of assessments, before in 1.3 version, always within CMMI appraisals, you had to receive formal training from the CMMI Institute. In 2.0, training has been expanded, or the requirement has been expanded, where individual ATM team members, they must all be CMMI associate certified. So that is a new requirement. And within the product suite, they also added a lot of tools and systems, and they've put in a lot of explanations to kind of substantiate the requirements so that it can be easily understood. So that is fundamentally the overarching big 2.0, CMMI 2.0, and what it means. Okay, so what I really like about CMMI 2.0 model, and I've seen so many of it change, is that the prior versions all focused on business performance, but I really like the way this model has taken shift and really says, we believe in best practices, and the model is designed as such. And now the new requirement, the way it's structured, is that it's really put a lot of focus in organizational measurements, performance indicators, because the goal of applying this model is to increase your business capabilities so that you can improve your business performance. That's, it increases it, improves it. There's a lot of focus on governance, where leadership is involved in identifying what their goals are, and then demonstrating in the new 2.0 version that you are aligning your quality program, your operational service, all with in the same direction as your business objectives. So I really like that focus. Earlier I showed the different levels, 1 through 5, and each of these levels actually build on one another. So you could, you can have level 2 capabilities, but then once you get to level 3, the organization is maturing, so you have more analytics and root cause analysis for information that you have to provide. But the biggest takeaway that I want you guys to have is that when you apply CMMI 2.0 within your organization, it is all around performance. It's very measurement focused. It's very, it is all around, are you meeting your business objectives? So if there's any small business owners or any business owners that are here, you know, I advocate this model because it will help you, and you will make sure that your organization is lining up to meet your goals. And one of our biggest goals, a small business owner, is financial, right? But in order to do that, you have to make sure your operations team has some infrastructure and some framework so they can biggest changes was the model itself, right? So I mentioned that requirements from prior version and the way it's laid out changed. So this here is the framework in which 2.0 is aligned to. So many of you, I am sure that's on the call, may have written proposal around quality where you talked about, plan, do, check, act, right? All of us talk about that when the RFP says, how are you going to make sure that you're carrying out your work with the highest quality? Give us your quality control plan. And we have all, one way or another, have talked about plan, do, check, act. Well, this is CMMI's plan, do, check, act, if you will. So these are the 4 categories in which the model says you organize your information. So there's not, this is not in any order, and that's what I really like about this framework, is that they're all kind of interdependent. So if we start off with doing is in this category, your service delivery, your product delivery, they're all focused around just performing the work. So you want to have processes, governance, policies and instructions in place to make sure your development team, your service delivery team have the right documentation to do the work. So this is doing the work, right? Then in any project, as you're doing the work, you have to manage it. So you probably have a team lead or a PM or a program manager. They have some responsibility in supporting the folks who are doing the work to manage the work, right? So they have to do some estimation, they have to do some planning. Do you have the right people, the right technology, the right resources? And we know that, especially in the federal work, we know a lot of that is dictated by the RFP and the government and what's included. But even so, if you're going for CMMI and you're going for whether it's level 2 or level 3, you should have some controls in place so that you can feel confident that you are doing your due diligence to meet the contract requirements, right? So, and then the other element that I like within the model that's improved for managing is that while in 1.3, the responsibility for training was at the organization level, and the project always provided input in terms of what was needed for, making sure that the workforce was competent. But in this new architect, the project managers or the folks that are managing the project really has to take a look at the competency and the workforce, of the workforce, and are they providing the support they need to their staff to make sure that they can always meet the contract requirements. And then if you do that, then it goes back to the benefits that I mentioned earlier, where you have high customer satisfaction, you have improved communication, collaboration, right? So as you can see, all of these things kind of converge and have dependencies. So the blue, where you enable, so if your folks are doing the work and then you're managing the project, you need to make sure you have infrastructure in place to enable the overall activity, right? So what does that mean? That means things like, how are they sharing their work products? How are you you know, if you're making decisions, what kind of supportive information is available. So it really allows or enables, right, the projects to be successful with tools and assets so that you can have consistency and repeatability. And then the purple is improving. So not only do you want to have an infrastructure that allows your team to have improvement and continuous improvement controls, but if you believe and if you're applying the CMMI framework, but at every category, whether it's doing, managing, enabling, you're always focused on continuous improvement. So that's why I like all these arrows. It seems you could get lost in it, but I do like that how it's circular, it flows with one another, and there's so many connectivity, and that's and interdependency. And I think everything's related when we deliver our work and our service to our customers. So that is why I really like this new 2.0 model. I do think that they've done a really good job at making sure that it's really focused on the business and making sure that organization thinks about certain things in order to be successful and improve their performance. That said, if there are folks on the call that have experience with 1.3, I wanted to kind of touch on some of the practices, if you're used to that, on what you can see between 1.3 and 2.0. So within the model, these are significant changes. This is not all of them, so I wanted to kind of highlight on some of the ones that you can just focus on. New practices, while it's not new to me, but if from compared to 1.3 to 2.0, estimation is its own practice. So if you'll recall, in the previous version, it was part of planning. Hey, make sure you do estimation based on product size. However, in this new version, it is a practice. You really have to demonstrate your capabilities for identifying how you're estimating, documenting that estimating, checking to make sure your estimation is on track by reviewing it on a frequency that you have identified. So that is a new practice. Peer review, we've seen peer review in the dev model. However, peer review in this new, within the 2.0 is a practice itself. And guess what? It's not only in dev, it's also in the services, because the model says you should be able to peer review any kind of work, product, or service delivery in order to ensure high quality. So that's new in both. Governance is like the old OPD and OPF, but however, there are some specific things for leadership. So the model has taken a stand that, organizational leaders have a responsibility to really clearly identify the objectives that they want to achieve. As you heard me say earlier, that 2.0 is focused on business performance. So governance really says that leadership is committed to making sure that they're supporting all of these policies and procedures and identifying what those are. And implementation infrastructure is also a new practice, and that is making sure that the structure for continual improvement is in place. And then where you're going to see some changes that I think the model needed, right? For those of us that have been working on it for a while, managing performance and measurement, that actually got updated actually quite a bit. So from 1.3, from level 5, a lot of practices are in level 3 now. The model does say if you have measurement analysis, you got to look at it, look to see if you're on track. If you are, good. How do you make it better, right? Make it good to great. And if you're not, what are you doing? Have you done your research to see, hey, this is not the way I'm expecting it to be. How do I make sure that it's not, that to bring it back in line? Or change it if it doesn't work. The other thing that I like is risk management. CMMI did kind of marry up their risk management requirements similar to ISO 9001, where, risk management, if you really do it the way it's intended, you're supposed to think about your project or organizational activities proactively, right? But we always kind of gravitate towards what happens if things go wrong, right, with risk. And then, if something were to go sideways, what are your mitigation strategies to kind of bring it back up? Well, what about if it's a potential risk and it becomes an opportunity? Because sometimes your projects or your PMs are on the customer site. If there's a risk that could inadvertently do something, but your organization has that capability, but that's not what you're on there for. That's an opportunity for the organization to say, hey, but we can do this to help fix your problem, right? So I think that risk creates opportunity sometimes, and I like the way the model approached it. Verification, validation, which is, testing things in its target environment and also making sure that it's worked before you put it in there. I think the marriage for those two practice areas before was important. So that got brought together. Same thing with requirements development and management. Before, there was the requirements management and then, which was at level 2. Requirements development was at level 3 for software development. But right now, requirements development and management is for both dev and services. So that's a pretty significant change. But I like it. I like it because I think it's important to know what are the requirements so that you can meet them and make sure that you are proactively working to meet them, and then report on them to your customer, so that you can have that increased customer satisfaction, right? So these are the fundamental big changes between 1.3 and 2.0. So many of you, I know we asked for some questions. You asked, well, how do we prepare, right? So naturally, the first thing is, there are a lot of things that needs to be done in order to, as you work towards this path or journey for CMMI. So having said that, here's the typical road to appraisal, right? So what I always say is, if you have decided that this is what you want to work on, sometimes an organization may decide they're going to work on CMMI as a result of a business need. There might be a procurement out there. I know, like, our organization has been extremely busy with CIOSP4. There are some requirements for that, or there could be, or you might say it's a good idea. It's going to increase our business performance. We're focused on quality. We just want to make things better, right? So whatever your need is, come up with a timeline. I would always say identify a time in which you want to receive your rating by, and then work on identifying a lead, a licensed appraiser. The reason I say that is because that's going to help you hone in on a date. Then, I don't think I've mentioned this as of yet, but I plan to a little bit later, but we are also CMMI level 3. So if you work with Kreative, we will treat this as a project. So now we know what your target is. So then we support you in getting yours. So once you have the date, then you've got to do your documentation. You've got to implement it. Not only do you have to do your documentation and implement it, you have to train your folks to institutionalize and make sure that they know what they are, they're performing to it. And how do you do that? You make sure you have internal audits, right? So you've got to self-assess to make sure that those established policies, procedures are understood and are being applied the way you intend them to. And if they're not, it's good that you catch them, put in some corrective actions. And sometimes it's, maybe the process needs to be updated. So you go through that, and that is in phase 2. Then phase 3, once you feel like you're good, now you're ready for the third-party appraisal activities. Now with CMMI, there are 2 external activities or milestones that you have to prepare for. One is getting your, is the readiness review. So you meet with the lead appraiser and the appraisal team. Typically, there are 4 minimal team members, depending on the size of your organization, but minimum it's 4. If your organization is larger, you could have a larger appraisal team, but you need a minimum of 4. Oops. sorry. Well, you need a minimum of 4. And what you do in the first milestone, it's typically 1 or 2 days, depending on your model, if you're going for a multi-model or a single model, or how big the effort is, right? How big your organization is. It could be anywhere from, I said 1 to 2, that's typically the size of the engagements we work in, but it could be 1 to 5 days. But here, the objective is for the appraisal team to look at the documentation and receive a high degree of confidence in looking at the work products that the organization has been operating, right, and has implemented the policies, the controls, and their objective evidence that exists in order to assess and say, yep, you look good. We're going to come back and within 3 to 4 weeks, and we're going to do the actual Scampy. It is called, actually, I'm using the old term, it's actually called benchmark appraisal. So in the new 2.0, the terminology has also changed. It is called benchmark appraisal, but the idea is very similar to 1.3, where in this benchmark appraisal, you have document review, interviews with the practitioners, so that the appraisal team can verify and validate that the processes have been implemented, folks are doing what they need to. Okay, and there's usually, as I have in this graphic, 2 to 4 weeks in between readiness review and the benchmark appraisal. But I know there were a couple of questions. Well, what do we need to do to get started? My recommendation would be to, find a lead, first identify your date and find a lead appraiser. The other reason I say you need to find a licensed lead appraiser is because they are busy, especially with a sunsetting of 1.3 last month to 2.0. The transition has resulted in a lot of lead appraisers to have a lot of bookings. And I don't know if you guys know, they have limited number of appraisals that they can do. So it's really important. And then treat it like a project. Start with your activities, always start with, your organizational standard. If you're going to go for level 3, start at a high level and then kind of work your way down. But, but also if you have projects, have them start to document how they do things, So those would be some of the suggestions that I would make. Now, our process, we are, it's very typical. We start off by coming in, doing a gap, identifying what those actions are, and kind of working with your organization to close out, help you document your standards, implement them within your projects, train your internal staff on your documented processes. We also can do internal audits, collect the objective evidence, and then really get ready for the actual appraisal. We're very proud to say, I think that number increased since we last put this together. We have over 70 organizations that we have supported. We've done, well over 162 third-party audits, right, where we actually helped our customers with audits, and I am very proud of our 100% success rate. But we're very diligent. I think what works for us is that we really work in true partnership with our customers. We really believe that the customers that we work with, they're experts in their own domain. We're experts in quality and process, and just coming together and supporting one another really does make for achieving the goal. So the other thing that I wanted to share with you guys is that as we Kreative has gotten ready for CMMI and 2.0, we actually built our tool. We had a tool for 1.3. We also invested and built a tool for 2.0. This is part of our service delivery. It's a value added, but as you can see, it actually touches those doing, managing, enabling, and improving. It has been built on experience. We've worked with customer organizations size of less than 5 to 11,000, staff members, and getting organizations ready successfully to be CMMI rated. And why creative, right? So we understand federal business because we're also federal contractors. I don't know if you guys saw in my first slide, we are 8A HubZone women-owned organization. So we find that understanding federal customers really helps us when we're working with small businesses who are in the federal space. Myself and a lot of my team leads have also worked on projects before. So when we're partnering with the organization, it really bodes well because we understand their commitments operationally and the things that they have to do in order to be ready for CMMI. We also service commercial customers as well. So while we work with federal customers, we also work outside of industry. And what we mean by that is we also have supported a lot of GMP audits, which are good manufacturing audits. Costco, if you guys shop at Costco, I was very pleased to find that Costco, for a lot of their, actually almost all of their vendors require them to have this GMP rating. So we've actually worked with several, manufacturing and jewelry organization and getting them ready. So we have a variety of industry that we support in the quality world. And we can scale solutions because we understand quality. We understand that one size does not fit all. So you have to be able to scale your solution based on your business, the resources that you have. So we definitely apply solutions that are perfectly tailored for your organization. And we understand, so one of the things, I've mentioned that we do scalable solution, and the next bullet kind of piggybacks off of one another, in my opinion, because we bring people, process, and technology together. And I'm very proud to say that we are one of, within our competitors, we do have friendly competition, and within a lot of my colleagues, our team really truly applies technology, and when we deploy assets for the organization and when we help you maintain that, we encourage using technology as well, because let's face it, we're in a very technological space. So we try to bring that change, since you're going through organizational change, why not, apply technology so that you can, not only for ourselves, but for the organization, so they can actually sell that to their customer as well. So we do employ technology. We are avid users of, Office 365, and I'll talk about that in a second. I guess we'll talk about it now. So we use SharePoint quite a bit, but we use the Office 365 version of SharePoint. We use Teams quite a bit. We use Planner. So we do like to not only just tinker with technology, but apply our process. My team will tell you, I am all about making sure first we understand the process and then apply technology. So I think we've gotten our process right, and now we're just taking technology pieces and really making it lean, right? You heard me say earlier, one of the benefits of CMMI is how can you be lean? So I think once you understand process and apply the model, you can really apply technology and to reduce your life cycle so you could do more with less, right? And we are also ISO 9001 and CMMI level 3 rated. We actually have both dev and services as part of our CMMI rating. So we're quite proud of our accomplishment. We're actually coming up on our reassessment here in early next year. So we're quite proud of that. And we are CMMI ISACA partner as well. We have been for many years. And the benefit of that is that we get firsthand notification from CMMI on the changes that are occurring, and we stay current and relevant with what's going on within the CMMI world. And this is my favorite part. We have, as I mentioned, we've been in business definitely 9 years. We're coming up on our 10th year. We have 100% success rate. We believe in integrating CMMI and ISO models when we partner with our customers. 68% of our customers are as a result of repeat business, and 100% is from referrals. Our customers like what we do, they refer us. We have a fantastic team and even more fantastic bunch of customers. So we've been very lucky and very blessed for our success and the way we operate. And we also provide other services. Definitely quality is in our wheelhouse. As a result, we do consulting, right, in management and IT. When you're working on process, you have to do some sort of training, so we do that as well. And because we're in the compliance house, especially recently with DoD, there's a lot of CMMC, so we're doing a lot of CMMC work. We've been quite busy there. And with a name like Kreative, right? We also provide some graphic design services, and as I mentioned, SharePoint. We live and breathe SharePoint. So these are some of our services that we offer in addition to our quality work. So any questions that I can answer?
Thank you, Soda, for that. Yes, we did receive a few questions while you're presenting. The first to start, should we start with ISO 9001 first and then CMMI, or does the order matter? Do you have any input there?
Okay, I can go in any order.
Okay, perfect. And then do you have like a specific price point, or how do you guys gauge price points?
Sure. We don't have, we definitely have a set of price that we offer, but it really depends. It depends on your organization and the size and complexity, right? So if you're implementing, be it ISO or CMMI, you really do have to consider the size, the number of projects, the number of people that is supporting your organization. So it does vary. We'll be more than happy to connect with you and understand what your organization is like, and then give you a pricing that's tailored for your organization.
Okay. And then who should someone reach out to if they do want more guidance on how to get started? Is there a specific member of our team that you'd like them to reach out to?
Sure. I'll be more than happy to do it personally, but we also, it'll be myself and or our operations manager, but we have several resources that can help, and they can reach out to me directly or our marketing email, and someone will get back to them.
Okay, perfect. A follow-up, we have, what does it mean to be a CMMI partner? I think you talked a little bit about that at the beginning of the presentation.
Mm-hmm. Sure. So CMMI partner is for someone like Kreative, where we are consultants. We actually pay a subscription to the Institute to be a member. So it's having a membership where you get, information from them to just stay apprised. So getting CMMI rating and having being a partner are two independent things.
Okay.
Just to clarify that. Yep.
Perfect. And then could you give a few examples of like what types of organizations and industries that you've assisted in the past?
Sure. Definitely customers within federal space. We've helped that industry quite a bit. And then, and within the federal space, DoD, civilian, non-civilian, agencies, anything. We've done software development. We've helped customers who support the Intel community to, as I mentioned, civilian, where they're just supporting, every day.
Okay, perfect. Going back to ISO 9001, someone asked if they don't have ISO 9001 already, could you get that done the same time as CMMI?
100%, and I strongly encourage it, because there are a lot of practices and discipline within ISO requirements and CMMI where they converge, right? And we always believe in one integrated system. So yes, you can do.
Perfect. And then just to finish up, why are you personally proud of the CMMI model?
Because I believe that it brings a lot of value to the organization. You know, when you start out applying controls, it is there might be some bumps in the road, right? But as a business owner or a manager, you'll say, oh, this is what I wanted to do. I wish I had time for it. The reason I'm so passionate about it is because it kind of creates the opportunity for you to put in controls in place that you wanted to. And once you do, and you create a cadence, you get to reap the benefits of doing repeatable work, gaining insight into your organization so you can make things better. So that's why I'm so passionate about it.
Perfect. And then does your firm plan on offering any more webinars on this subject or any other subjects in the future?
Sure. If we can get some recommendation, we would love to provide a topic and something that you would like additional information on. But yes, we will definitely do more of these.
Okay, perfect. I think that concludes our questions. We would really like to thank all of you for attending and participating in Kreative CMMI webinar. Please look out for information on some of our upcoming webinars and be sure to follow us on social media to stay updated on all things creative. If you have any additional questions, please email marketing@kreativecorp.com. And we hope that you have a great rest of your afternoon.
Yes, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thanks, everyone. Talk to you later.
Bye-bye.
Bye.